Welcome back. The big development over the last 4 days has been in the currency markets with a kind of downgrade of outlook being called on the UK gilts, that leading to fears that US treasuries may not be far behind. And we saw a fairly serious fall in the US dollar against majors as well as Asian currencies. We saw the rally in the Indian rupee itself. Today, of course, the Asian rally has been stalled by that Korean nuclear news. But what happens to the dollar here on, and is this threat or fear of a potential downgrade of US treasuries a real threat at all? Darius Kowalczyk, the Chief Investment Officer of SJS Markets, joins us. Thanks a lot for joining us, Darius. If you can first of all tell us whether this fear that even PIMCO raised on Friday, is it a real fear of downgrade? In any case, what do you see the trajectory of the US dollar versus Asian currencies as well as the majors?
I believe that the rating for US government debt will not be lowered within the medium to long term because debt levels of the US will not approach those 100% or close to that number sort of threshold that would trigger such a downgrade. So probably we will see the Obama administration managing to stabilize the fiscal situation with debt levels closer to 75% of GDP, and that should remove much of those rating downgrade concerns. As far as the greenback goes, I think that the drop that it suffered last week was excessive, and I would expect it to regain some ground against majors over the rest of the year and to dramatically slow the depreciation against emerging currencies, including emerging Asian units.
Darius, my question relates, these markets have more to do with psychology, not so much whether it will happen or not happen. What are the chances that the market psychology, especially for central banks like the Chinese central bank, says, look, maybe there's going to be a downgrade, I can't risk it, I've got all this money lying in US treasuries. What are the chances that there could be a run on it, and perhaps we could see a significant appreciation in Asian currencies? And perhaps if you can comment on the nature of some of the currencies here, which is the Indian rupee, perhaps and some of the other Asian currencies, just purely on psychology rather than a real downgrade of any sort.
Well, there is always some risk that psychological issues will dramatically move markets, and we have seen it happen over the last year a number of times. However, it seems to me that central bankers, especially in countries holding massive dollar currency reserves such as China or Japan, will not act on a short-term sort of fear. And this belief is based on their track record as well as on the fact that they are too heavily indebted in the too heavily invested in the US government debt and the US dollar to risk triggering their even steeper decline were they to announce that they are changing their currency investment strategy. So I think that those major central banks will not be a cause for a run on the US unit. Some smaller banks, might move forward in terms of plans to tie their currencies to a basket of major currencies. Several have done that already, such as Russia, but even with its large currency reserves, Russia has not really been able to shake the greenback. So the risk is always there, but I don't think it will happen.
Well, Darius, just to repeat Ashu's question, where do you see the Indian rupee, say, in the next quarter or so versus the dollar? And more importantly, the other piece of the Chinese action, they have been moving a lot of their trade to bilateral currencies. The recent deal they struck with Brazil was only a last of already 4 or 5 such deals, that they don't deal with the US dollar, they deal with their mutual currencies. Will this chip away from the strength of the dollar? Basically, what I'm getting at is, therefore, where would the dollar rest against various Asian currencies, particularly Indian?
I believe that by the end of the year, rupee will be trading at 46.5 against the US dollar, which is only 2% up from current levels. I think that this will reflect recovery in Asian and Indian economies, which will support investment flows into the region, as well as the regions and India's current account situation. So some upside here, but not much upside because the greenback itself against other majors is likely, in my opinion, to regain some ground as markets focus on the fact that the U.S. economic recovery will come sooner than European or Japanese. In terms of what the Chinese are doing with their bilateral swap agreements with many countries, yes, they are trying to denominate their foreign trade in renminbi and the currencies of their partnering countries, but it's not something that will occur in the near term, even with Brazil.
All right, Darayus Kowalczyk, we do appreciate you taking time for us. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so the